Hello to my dear children of MA previous year. Today we are going to begin with Francis Bacon's new essay of Parents and Children, which is part of your course. And as we had done in the previous essays also, we are going to do short pieces in each video, and it will contain some explanations, and also it will contain things which can be written down by you. Of parents and children is different from the essays that we had earlier done because it is pretty short, and this is an important feature of this essay, that even though it is short and compact, it contains a lot of practical and logical arguments regarding parenthood and different types of aspects that this relationship has, the relationship between parents and their children. And before I begin the explanation of this essay, there are a few points that I need you to note down. I'm going to write, and I hope you have your essay open in front of you, and on the essay or on some piece of paper you can note down these points before we begin reading this essay. So the first point that we need to write here is that this essay contains suggestions by the author as to how parents can bring up their children. So this is basically about bringing up. Then there is this aspect of this essay that it is very compact, in the sense that it has short sentences, not very long explanations or lot of examples. He just says his point with a lot of brevity, you can say, and still he can explain in a very short style. Then next point, the author argues about So he also talks about the advantages and disadvantages of having children. So very practical indeed. Parents have a kind of a sweet and sour relationship with their children. Sometimes they are disturbed, sometimes they are happy, sometimes they enjoy this relationship, and at other times they also think that this relationship has actually increased their cares and worries. So he talks of, as I said, he is so practical. He talks of the advantages and disadvantages of having children. And next you can write down that he uses, just like in all other essays, he uses a number of metaphors and similes. He uses some examples also, and definitely we know that he loves to use some quotations. Then the next point that you can note down, that this essay actually comes in the category of man and his relation to the society, because when we talk of parents and children, The whole relationship is part of man's relationship with this society. So in that sense also, this essay comes in the category. As I have already stated, that in this essay he has used a lot of rational and logical arguments, and nowhere, not at all, he is emotional and nostalgic, because if you look at the topic can have elements which in which the author, in which the writer can become very emotional, talking of the emotional aspect of this relationship, but he does not do that, not at all. He is not emotional, he is not nostalgic, but he is very rational and logical in his arguments. And the last point that I really need to put down over here, and maybe I can write it over here and you can copy, that it contains a lot of quotable lines, which is true for many essays of Bacon. But here also you can say that it has a lot of epigrammatic sentences, it has a lot of quotable lines. So these are some of the points that I need you to write down, and when we will read this essay, you will see how these lines, these points are actually very suggestive. So we are going to read just a bit of this beginning, the introduction, where from the very beginning he just comes to the point. He does not wander around the point. He starts with the joys of parents, and he says, I'm reading, the joys of parents are secret. He says, the joys of parents are secret, and so are their griefs and fears. So parenthood, as I said, it is a very sweet and sour relationship. Excuse me. So it has its joys and it has its griefs and fears. This is very true. He says they cannot utter the one. So the one here refers to the joys and the other refers to the fears and griefs. So very practically he says they cannot utter the one, nor will they will not utter the other. And this is really true. I'm just going to write the reason for it. The reason is that the joys of parents are indescribable. How can they utter their joys in so many words? Because having children and enjoying your life with them, it is such an enjoyable relationship that you do not have words enough to describe them. So the first thing is true, they cannot utter their joys. Then what about the second? Nor they will not utter the other. He says that their griefs are so personal. Griefs of parents, that they will never share them. So if parents are in grief, if parents have some fear regarding their children, it is such a personal emotion that they will never share them. So a parent, if he's happy, he will be unable to say it in words. If he's sad, sorrowful or fearful, he will not share it with anyone. And then he says children sweeten labors. Such a short sentence. Children sweeten labors, but they make misfortunes more bitter. I had told you, I had used these two words, pithy and brevity. That is what I wanted to say with very short sentences. This is such a short sentences, but it means so much. Why? he says children sweeten labor. The reason for this, what is the meaning of labor here? Labor means your efforts. So he says parents know why do parents labor, why do parents work hard, why do they make so much effort? Why? Because their children sweeten the effort. Parents know that if they work hard, it is only for the benefit of their children. And then the second part also becomes true: misfortunes more bitter. So what is the meaning of this? That if parents suffer any misfortune, it could be in terms of health, in terms of wealth, it could be in terms of anything. If they suffer any misfortune, they suffer more because they know that this will adversely affect their children. So in happiness, the happiness doubles, it multiplies because they know their children are going to be happy. The sadness also multiplies, the sorrow also multiplies because they know that their children are going to be sorrowful. So much more than their own sorrow, their own misfortune, parents suffer because they cannot see their children suffering. What a beautiful line, this small line, and such a deep meaning it has. And he says they increase the cares of life. So here Bacon is being very practical. He says what is the meaning of cares? It means worries. Children increase the worries of their parents' life, which is very true. Parents could live a life with maybe without any responsibility or very less worry. The worries increase. Why? Because they worry for their children. So children increase the worries of their parents' lives, but they mitigate the remembrance of death. And see how he says mitigate means they lessen or they compensate the remembrance of death. You can say that parents forget their fear of death because they hope to live on in the form of their children even after death. So he says that even though children may increase the worries of life, they also increase the pleasures of life. So it is, I'm reading till here only today, but even till here he has said something which is very important, that children are a cause both of pleasure and of pain for their parents. So I am going to finish off today, even though this is just an introduction, but we will carry on from here in my next video. Thank you very much.